The entire life of Dr. William Peck up to Black Ops 6 Zombies, a refresher on his character, as he of course is going to be very important moving forward throughout this game, and some of you may need a refresher. And I want to give a big thank you to the Call of Duty Wiki, who have provided a nice summary of Peck's life, which I'll be using as a basis for this video, linked below, going a bit more in depth. Let's dive into it. Born in 1940, Peck graduated with a doctorate in theoretical physics at only 20 years old. He became program manager in the Department of Defense and was in charge of the directed energy weapon laboratories, with a supposed IQ of 179, making him apparently more intelligent than Albert Einstein himself, although it's unclear if he forged that. But regardless, Peck was exceptionally intelligent, but was hard to work with and displayed a lack of empathy, which bordered on an undiagnosed sociopathy disorder, causing him to be passed on for promotion several times. While he was still in the United States, Peck was engaged to a woman named Martha, who was deemed an excellent gain for the Soviet Union by Dr. Alexandra Valentina of the Omega Group, who saw him as an exemplary candidate for their exoscientific phonema research lead, who was actually identified as a CIA mole and deemed to be an ideal candidate for defection. Peck would soon join Omega Group in said position, defecting to the East, now a traitor to his country. During Omega Group's Operation Undertaker and capture of the Project N Station facility in Morosko, Poland, Peck and Valentina were sent to oversee the capture. While there, they overlooked the abandoned Nazi technology and intended to repair the damage done by the previous Soviet forces in 1945. After 2 months of work, Omega Group were able to restore the facility to an operational condition, and were prepared to reactivate the cyclotron to recreate a gateway to the Dark Ether. Operation Undertaker turned out to be a success, with Omega working on the weaponization and development of new technologies using Ethereum. The reactivation of the cyclotron took place on November 1st, 1983 and was overseen by Valentina and Peck, restarting the cyclotron with an ease that Peck found somewhat alarming. A week after the reactivation of the N Station cyclotron, Omega Group was granted permission by Vietnam through use of a pact to establish a base on their territory called Operation Outpost 25, which would be built on the former site of Firebase Ripcord. Construction began on November 11th, 1983, with Peck being named as the facility's lead scientist. On December 8th, Peck designed the Omega Portal Chamber, a large dome-like structure for a stabilized gateway, and just a month later, on January 8th, 1984, Peck and Dr. Dmitry Kulkley managed to create a new and stable rift to the Dark Ether using an Ethereum sample recovered from Project N Station. Although not considered a true gateway, it marks the first portal controlled by humans on record since Project N Station. At the moment he knew he was successful, Peck goaded his assistant Kulkley and believed he had even surpassed even Dr. Vogel's work, since he is extremely egotistical. Teams of Omega Group soldiers were now sent daily to the Dark Ether to collect Ethereum crystals using canisters specifically made to contain the radiation. Biological, botanical, and geological specimens, as well as liquid samples, were among the various otherworldly commodities being harvested by these Ethernauts. Peck noted that Ethereum could yield massive amounts of energy and could be used as a sustainable power source, and soon designed an ether reactor using refined Ethereum as fuel. By early February, Outpost 25 was entirely running on 3 separate ether reactors. Unfortunately, excursions in the Dark Ether proved extremely dangerous, and Omega Group suffered heavy losses among their ranks. To address the problem, Kravchenko requested the conscription of Ethereum miners, dubbed Ethernauts. The request was approved, and by early March 1984, prisoners from work camps started to arrive at Outpost 25, comprised of common criminals, political dissidents, foreign prisoners, and intellectuals from both the Soviet Union and Vietnam. As more Ethernauts were sent to the Dark Ether, the collection of Ethereum crystals was up by 237%. Excursions, however, were still incredibly dangerous, with a quarter of all Ethernauts sent to the Dark Ether never coming back or facing too severe side effects after returning. Said side effects from journeys in the other side also started to appear. Effects varied from individual to individual, with some people staying healthy while others exhibited mild radiation poisoning or returned fully necrotized as zombies. Multiple and/or prolonged excursions into the Dark Ether increased the likelihood and severity of the symptoms, especially for miners who encountered hostile creatures or consumed food or drinks found in the other dimension. Coolclay also noted that some individuals suffered long-term memory losses. To circumvent this, Peck developed a memory transference machine, hoping it would restore the fractured minds of their conscripts. Peck also developed a truth serum to help recover memories and debunk conflicting reports, made of course from Ethereum technology similarly. On March 14th, Peck and Coolclay created the blueprints for the Red Soldier Mechanized Armor, aka the Krasny Soldat, to help assist in the protection of Ethernauts, though Coolclay is later discredited by Peck and removed from the project. On April 8th, Coolclay developed an Ethereum-powered assault rifle, the Ray K-84, but was scolded by Peck for wasting their time. However, he would later steal the design and claim it as his own work. Throughout Peck and Coolclay working together, Peck was emotionally abusive to him the entire time, constantly discrediting him, putting him down, saying he's a waste of time and resources, which meant Coolclay grew to hate him, and rightly so. Valentina, amidst these cruel experiments, met with Dr. Coolclay under Peck's nose. Recognizing the hatred he held for his superior, Valentina realized Coolclay could be an asset to furthering her own plans. Coolclay sourced her the schematics for technology that would allow her to measure the dimensional stability at any place of her choosing. At around the same time of these operations commencing, Eddie Richtofen also contacts Dr. William Peck, offering Dr. Peck as a safety net of being able to come back to the US and be given work, in exchange for becoming his secret mole in Omega Group. Eddie uses the codename Argus the entire time to hide his identity, with Peck working for this mole throughout, not knowing his identity to be the director of Requiem himself until later on, which we'll come on to. Likewise, Peck used the codename Captain Whiskers in reference to his own pet cat when communicating to Richtofen the entire time. Richtofen of course was playing all sides, Omega and Requiem, like a game of chess, to all do his bidding for him, creating conflicts and resolutions. Peck just hoped in this secret deal that it could potentially secure him safe passage to the West and give him a clean slate due to his past history of similarly being a mole. He's a mole for everyone, if things at Omega were to not work out in his favor. In early May, Peck and Coolclay performed an autopsy on a dark ether creature which was captured a few days prior, though it was soon terminated when it tried to escape containment after turning itself into a rifle, the Mimic. On May 14th, after a visit from Gorev, Peck became aware that Samantha Maxis, a former agent of the BND and current ally of Requiem, wished to expose Omega Group and was going to meet a secret mole, Sergei Ravanov, from Outpost 25. However, before the two could meet, Maxis was captured in June. She would be brought to Outpost 25, where Peck would personally torture and interrogate her to try and learn the identity of the mole. Maxis refused, and under secret orders of the director of Requiem, since he was working as a mole for him, he ordered him to disobey Kravchenko's orders. Kravchenko told Peck to just interrogate and torture her. He went against that and threw her into the Dark Ether itself as per his request. Soon after, the gateway in the Omega Portal Chamber released a massive burst of Ethereum, which contaminated the entire facility. As the infection spread quickly, a phasic barrier started to surround the base, which led to the death of anyone trying to cross it. Various temporary dimensional breaches also appeared around the facility, releasing large quantities of the undead. Peck soon sent a distress signal to Omega Group headquarters, believing to be the sole survivor, as he was unaware Ravanov also survived. On June 15th, 1984, Peck would come into contact with a Requiem strike team attempting to rescue Maxis. Peck was able to trick Requiem into allowing him to transmit his data back to Omega Group. Arriving at the facility, Peck contacts the strike team over radio and makes a bargain, turn the facility power back on, and he would give up Maxis. After doing just that, however, Peck chided the team for their incredible stupidity. Maxis was in the Dark Ether and totally out of his or their reach. Now that they had restored power, he had transferred all of his research via satellite back to Omega in Russia. Consulting Ravanov, he informs the strike team that Peck kept his truth serum in order to interrogate Ethernauts who had returned without their sanity, in order to get some semblance of a series of events from them. The strike team mixed the serum and gave it to Peck, causing him to become delusioned and drunk, and in this haze explained that in order to recover Maxis, they would need the codes to the portal's mainframe and her dimensional tracking ID. Eventually obtaining these, they they restarted the portal only to find that the truth serum had worn off and Peck had double-crossed them yet again. Thankfully, Requiem had an ace up their sleeve. Designed for use in Operation Threshold, this secret weapon of Requiem was an orbital laser. They used pure Ethereum to pull high-value targets straight from the dark ether into our world. Locking onto Sam, the laser blasted the portal chamber and retrieved her, visibly disorientated as she stumbled out, contaminated by the dark ether. By the time Requiem left Vietnam, Omega Group soldiers, led personally by Kravchenko and Valentina, arrived to extract Peck. As a test to prove his commitments to Omega, as they began to have suspicions he was a mole, which they were correct about, and they suspected Peck was the mole, considering the fact he didn't do as Kravchenko asked. Why was that? And when Richtofen was communicating to Peck, he never informed him that Ravenov was the mole, but he knew. And as punishment for letting Outpost 25 fall, Kravchenko stabs out one of Peck's eyes, just as he did to Weaver long ago. Before doing so, Kravchenko says to Peck,
"I want to see a demonstration of your commitment to Omega. Tell me, Doctor, which is your better eye?"
Following the loss of Outpost 25, Omega Group shifted its primary interest to the Ural Mountains, the site of the world's largest outbreak zone that has been loosely contained since the activation of the cyclotron. On July 8th, Kravchenko assigned Peck to the Ural Mountains to assess the applications of the Ethereum crystals present at the site under the direct supervision of Gorev. 3 days after arriving, Peck deduced that the Ruka site and the unique specimens present around the zones would allow Omega Group to advance Operatia Inversia or Operation Inversion and developed the specialized warhead needed for it. On July 14th, Peck created the blueprints for the Reality Inversion warhead for Operation Inversion, which could generate dimensional breaches up to 500 meters, creating an estimated outbreak zone the size of 800 kilometers. Using Tempest infused onto the heads of each missile, Omega Group would utilize their electromagnetic abilities to bypass Western warning systems to allow the missiles to reach their targets unimpeded, ensuring maximum damage that would be the catastrophic death blow to the West. Over the next few months, however, Omega Group began to learn of higher otherworldly entities within the Dark Ether, seemingly building up their forces. During an examination of a destroyed Krasny Soldat, Peck discovered that the armor, while of his design, was being altered and upgraded by unknown forces within the Dark Ether. Omega Group would come to know this as the work of the Forsaken, a highly powerful entity which ruled over the Dark Ether and oversaw the Dark Ether invasion into their reality. On September 3rd, Peck detailed some of the few bizarre occurrences happening throughout the zones, one being the appearance of a strange computer, the Intel machine. On the other end of this computer was a mysterious stranger named Kazimir Zykov, of whom Peck would frequently talk to, asking it questions regarding the Dark Ether. He had, months earlier, been chastised by Valentina for his interaction with this computer. Omega Group's ambitions for Operation Inversion would not come to pass, and Peck's work going to waste. However, as the Requiem strike team, as well as Maxis and Ravenov, undertook a secret operation to dispose of the Inversion warheads. And it was actually the director who informed Peck himself, since he was trying to set events in motion, of the Forsaken and his armies. In response to their derailing of Operation Inversion, the Requiem strike team alongside Requiem pilot Raptor 1 would be captured by Omega Group. Weeks afterwards, Omega Group began directing its attention towards stopping the Forsaken. As similarly, the director was contacting Kravchenko under an alias, convincing him that that's what they needed to do. Like I said, playing all sides. During this time, Peck, with the help of Zykov, pretending to be innocent, develops the LT-53 Kazimir, a tactical device capable of sucking enemies into the Dark Ether. Gorev would come to find the blueprints and decided to rebrand them as weapons. In January 1985, Valentina broke off from the Omega Group, revealing herself to be Angelica Vogel, daughter to Project N Station lead Ulrich Vogel. She would open a portal beneath Berlin in an abandoned Project N Station facility, allowing the Forsaken to lead an army of the undead into the city. However, thanks to the captured Requiem strike team, who would go on to escape Berlin and Omega, she would be defeated and the portal would be closed. During this time, Peck began attempting to convince Kravchenko that the Forsaken could be weaponized with the help of Zykov. Peck continued speaking with Zykov. Frustrated at the failure of Operation Inversion, Peck inquired as to whether Zykov could help him get more Tempest to attempt it again. However, Zykov assured him that was not necessary. Instead, he would help Zykov build a device that would be able to stop the Forsaken, a way to bring Zykov home. In doing this, Zykov would be able to give Omega the knowledge necessary to kill the Forsaken. After the director had Kravchenko successfully obsessed with the existence of the Forsaken, he communicated more with Peck, who is beginning to suspect his identity. The director instructs Peck, under the guise of speaking to Zykov, that instead of seeking to kill the Forsaken, he should should instead attempt to capture it, and gives him the schematics of a device capable of containing the creature. Peck informs Kravchenko on this, though lies and says Zykov told him of his new plan. The Colonel is more than happy with the idea of gaining a new super weapon for the USSR, while Peck says that Zykov offered to help, and this may be somewhat true. The person who actually designed the technology used to defeat and capture the Forsaken was Eddie himself. He simply had Peck say that it was Zykov to make Kravchenko go along with the plan much quicker. After Valentina's betrayal, Omega Group would begin working on Operation Izbavatel, which was dedicated to freeing Zykov from the Dark Ether in hopes he would help them capture the Forsaken. On February 9th, Peck reported to Kravchenko that he had identified Zykov's position in the Dark Ether, adding that Test Site Anna, a former Operation Inversion facility in Ukraine, would best suit the construction of a primordial Ethereum-powered machine designed by Zykov needed for Operation Izbavatel. On April 18th, Peck suggested to Kravchenko that all Omega Group departments halt operations and focus their attention on Operation Izbavatel. A desperate Kravchenko reluctantly agreed, with all of Omega's attention going towards this operation. Initially intended for July 4th, 1985, Kravchenko forced Peck to complete the amplifier and cyclotron an entire month sooner, driven by his desire to please his superiors. Realizing Kravchenko's overwhelming egomania, Peck once again contacted the director, Richtofen, and finally makes a deal to secure his extraction to the west. In return, he would give Requiem the exact location and time of Zykov's extraction, as well as letting the director take the containment chamber. He now realizes that this was the director's plan all along, and also realized that his identity as the director of Requiem at this point. Gorev and Yeager, unaware of Peck's scheming and equally frightened of Kravchenko's ensuing madness, similarly make a deal with one another. If things go wrong, they will defect. On June 4th, Requiem strike team infiltrated Test Site Anna as Peck and Kravchenko prepared to release Zykov from the Dark Ether, watching from the observation tower. They had seemingly succeeded until Zykov revealed himself, duping them to be none other than the Forsaken himself the entire time, transformed by 40 years of Dark Ether corruption, which he had experienced as 4 centuries, as time passes differently in there, and managed to consume all of the Elder Gods in the Dark Ether to harness their power to make himself the most powerful entity in there. As the Forsaken prepared to make way for the consumption of Earth, Peck attempted to explain himself to Kravchenko, who in turn slapped him to the ground in anger, calling him an effing fool, and saying that he had doomed them all, and he was an idiot. A group of zombies then broke into the observation tower, where the two were forced to hold off against the undead. Kravchenko's patience with Peck was now completely gone, with Kravchenko threatening to kill him and end his scientific career, all the while still demanding to find a way to capture the Forsaken for the Soviet Union's use. In turn, Peck told Kravchenko to blow it out his ass, and assisted Requiem in building an Ethereum neutralizer to head to Main Street and face the Forsaken. As Requiem constructed the neutralizer, Peck accidentally shot a gas line in the observation tower, causing the room to explode.
The gas line! Oh my god!
Leaving the fate of both of them unknown for the moment. Of course, Requiem managed to contain the Forsaken as Samantha sacrificed her life to trap it inside of the containment chamber, which was created, of course, by Peck under the instruction of Richtofen. After the gas line and the promise of safe extractions to the west, we jump 5 years later. Peck managed to survive the disastrous events at Test Site Anna, though his face was scarred as a result of the gas line explosion. Having learned of the state of Requiem, Peck sought vengeance against Requiem's director, Edward Richtofen. In February 1991, Peck visited a boat rental house in Japan and asked to chart a boat to the middle of the Pacific Ocean, seemingly at an empty location. When asked about his proposal of travel, Peck responded that he was looking for some old friends since he attempts to break out the Requiem heads, Weaver, Gray, Carver, and Strauss, who were apprehended by Richtofen after he closed down Requiem following the capture of the Forsaken. Of course, Richtofen promised him safe passage to the west, but considering he now wants vengeance on him, it's very unlikely that he was granted that, and probably Richtofen duped him for his help and never upheld his end of the deal. As a result of the fisherman not helping Peck because he doesn't know of the location of where the Requiem heads are being held, he seemingly came across another person, a smuggler known as Maya Aguinaldo, who seemingly did know of the location known as Terminus Island, and the two of them set off to their destination together, where Richtofen had set up a black site, imprisoning the Requiem members and probably other people doing Dark Ether experiments and God knows what else there. After taking a boat there, Maya manages to break into the surveillance room and slashes the throat of the guard. Subsequently, they break Requiem out of containment. They throw them a bag of clothing and weapons while proposing they go after Richtofen and kill him in retaliation. Initially, the crew had no idea who Maya is, since she's of course a brand new character they're unfamiliar with, but then Peck Peck reveals his identity, pulling down his hood just as he did to the fisherman, revealing his scarred face, to which Weaver, since he was a mole before, throws him against the wall and is extremely angry at him. But they realize they have to put that to a side for one moment, as regardless of their discrepancies, he has saved them after all, and they now have a common goal to go after Richtofen together. And a zombie outbreak occurs at this exact moment, forcing the crew to take action and put their grievances aside to take out the zombie threats. Weaver then tasks Peck to accompany Strauss and secure the guard station to try and recover the coordinates of Richtofen, which they'll probably be attempting to do in the quest, whilst he, Maya, Gray and Carver battle the undead forces and attempt to find Maya's brother, who is also apparently located on Terminus Island, which is the entire reason why she has agreed to help Peck break the Requiem heads out, since she has no personal connection to them. It's unclear why Peck wants to break them out specifically, but most likely it is because of course he wants revenge on Richtofen, as he is the one who apparently stole all of his life's work, of course all of the research he was having made for both Omega and Requiem under the guise of Richtofen's identity, which is ironic because he stole many people's work, such as Coldclays, throughout this story. Meanwhile, Raptor 1 will be trying to locate a exfil for them. So that's pretty much the premise for the Easter egg, and that's where we see Peck, most likely in the DLC for Black Ops 6. The characters will be trying to get closer to Richtofen's coordinates, who was teleported in the Liberty Falls intro cutscene, which is of course happening across the globe, simultaneously as the Terminus outbreak. I think they'll get closer to Richtofen's coordinates, and they now have a shared goal to go after him, and that's where we're left, with Dr. Peck's entire storyline we have thus far. In summary of his personality, Peck can be described as a narcissistic sociopath who has a near complete lack of empathy and is highly condescending to those he looks down on, such as Coldclay and the Requiem strike team throughout Firebase C and Mauer de Toten. However, he's highly dedicated to his work, eventually becoming obsessed with freeing Zykov from the Dark Ether. He is, however, easily intimidated, especially by his superiors Gorev and Kravchenko. Despite his sociopathic nature, he is highly intelligent and displays expert knowledge on Ethereum-based technology, single-handedly developing the Ether reactor as well as many other pieces of technology. But he's too aware of his own intelligence and constantly gives himself praise for it. Despite him being a genius, he seems to like to inflate his ego by taking sole credit for work that he co-developed, such as the Ray K and the Red Soldier mechanized armor. He bigs himself up a lot more than he is, and true, real intelligent people are consciously aware of their own faults and flaws and turn to others who may be more credited in certain aspects. He is generally disliked by both his fellow Omega Group members and Requiem alike, with many of his superiors being quick to threaten him when he says something they don't like. After all, he has kind of played all of them, so they're right to be suspicious. By the time Black Ops 6 comes to a close, I'll probably make an update video on his entire life, as well as a video on the entire storyline of the whole game and potentially some of the other characters. But without further ado, thank you for watching the video, make sure to subscribe if you're not here for the latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.